We all see everybody's highlight reel on social media and think that's who they are, and it's not. So you just have to realize social media isn't real life, but what will be important going forward is real life. Being in the room with people is what will change everything going forward. You know, we went through 2 years, 6 years ago, where we couldn't be around people. And look at what it caused. We crave human connection. If you want to punish kids, what do you put them in? Timeout. If you want to punish the worst criminals, what do? Solitary confinement. So we know how important human connection is, but we're not paying attention to how we're losing it slowly.
Welcome to the Firestarter Podcast. I'm Willa Kammerer. Today we are talking about the psychology of influence and why people say yes or why they say no. And we are joined today to have this conversation with Brian Galke. He's the founder of Subtleskills, and he is a master in all things related to the psychology of influence. And I'm just excited to dig into all of it. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So walk me through a little bit of your backstory, how you got to what you do today and how you got there.
So it started in a weird way, and that is I'm an introvert by nature. And I felt like I missed that day at school where they taught you like how to make friends. Like I had friends, but it's always like, do I belong here or not? And what do good introverts do? We pick up books, we take courses, we go to seminars. And so I was always picking up like how to win friends and influence people, body language books, because I always thought, okay, if I can understand people, then it'll help me interact with them. And I was decent at that, but I was still an introvert. And when I was on the help desk, I met a gentleman by fluke circumstance. And that was a friend came in from out of town. She said, hey, let's go to dinner. I show up at the restaurant. She calls to cancel. I'm like, here we go. And she's like, no, you got to come meet this guy. I go, why? She goes, because he can decode faces. I go, that cannot be real. But I thought, this guy ruined my night, so I'm going to go prove he's a fraud. And that was my entire intention, was to go over there and just dismantle this guy. Instead, he just won me over. He was the nicest guy, and he just had this really just welcoming like essence like around him. And when we got done with dinner and everything, he sat down, he went person by person around the table, and he started breaking people down and was like, this is how this works. This is how. And I was trying to find something he was wrong with. I'm like, he's going to say the same thing. He's going to do what's called Barnum statements. And those are, oh, you've had a hard time in life. Like, who hasn't, right? But instead, he was very tactical. And each person that had similar features, he would say the exact same thing. If they were different, they'd say different things. I'm like, what is this? And so I was still kind of curious, but then he got to me, and when he read my face, I was like, ooh, okay, this guy's like been digging through my trash. Like, it blew me away. And so I bought his book, and I live in Dallas, Texas. He lived in Fort Worth, and it was 45 minutes away, but he offered group training twice a month. And I went, and I just started using it more and more. And then I would go out in public, and I'd lay the book down. People go, what's the book about? I go, well, kind of think this guy's full of it. Can I ask you questions? So I was getting honest feedback from people, and it wasn't 100%, but it was in the high 90s. And that was good enough for me. And it just changed my life with everything, because as an introvert, we live a lot of time here in our own heads. But when I'm focused on you, guess who I'm not thinking about? Me.
I love that. Well, I have to say, I feel a little seen right now. I don't know what you're interpreting. We'll go there. Yes. Maybe not right now. We're warming up right now. Yes. So like, why? Like, why would people want this skill? Like, what's the importance of being able to kind of read people? Like, what's the value add here?
Well, in this day and age where we're addicted to technology, we're digitally disconnected from each other. And that is, people don't even make eye contact anymore. There's a study done by intelligent.com. It was done in December of 2023. And they tried to hire kids out of high school and college. And they found that 53% of them couldn't make eye contact during a job interview. People that were doing virtual interviews, 21% turned off their camera for a virtual interview. We're losing this person-to-person connection. And it's so important. There's 4 basic human needs: physical safety, emotional safety. People want to feel seen and heard, and people want to feel connected. And we don't feel that right now. And so if you look at all the studies, go ask ChatGPT, what's the skills of the future? It's emotional intelligence skills, AKA soft skills. Whatever you can learn about other people will be the skill set of the future. Because AI and automation is going to replace up to 30% of jobs by 2030. That's up to 800 million jobs that will go away. Now, those are jobs that are completely eliminated. However, add to that, up to 60% of tasks are going to be automated. So what is a good paying job today will actually pay less in the future because you're not doing it as much. So we're all going to be affected. But what will never replace something is this right here. And that is being in the room with people. That's the whole reason why when you have people on your podcast, you bring them into the room. It's a different connection. It's a different feeling. than if you do it over Zoom.
Totally. Yeah. I think there's so much to that. I think, when we hear the word soft skills, and I'm glad you kind of put that label on it, because that's kind of what I was like, are these soft skills? And, so I'm glad to know that I was just like heading down the right lane there.
Yes.
But, I think we can think like soft skills means like low impact, not very important, kind of soft, like how are they going to get results if they're soft? But, from what you're saying, you're kind of saying, that actually is, that's what's going to derive the impact, the results, and maybe the bottom line in the future.
Absolutely.
And now.
Yes. Well, if you look, can you log on to Facebook or Instagram and can you tell who wrote their content versus AI generated? You can, right? It's very easy because people are losing their voice because they're having AI do it all. But when you can be in the room with people and you can actually create a connection, that's what changes things. And with facial features, and we'll talk about yours in a second, there's 43 muscles in the face. The mind creates movement, movement creates muscle. Well, when that happens, our faces change over time. So when I'm giving keynote speeches or doing corporate training, I show a picture of me at 18 versus 38, and they're in the room with me at 51. And they see all the things that have changed in my face. And that's because those 43 muscles, when we think, what do? We make a face. Like our parents said, stop making that face or get stuck that way. There's actually some truth to that. And so our faces from the minute we're born to the minute we pass are constantly changing. Now, it's little micro changes, right? Just like going to the gym. You don't go to the gym one day and all of a sudden you're swole. It is over time, the muscles that get used grow, the ones that don't atrophy. And that's why our faces change at the exact same time. And if you think about it, and for anybody who's a skeptic, so was I, you look at how do you know when somebody's sick? Their cheeks sink in, right? I have this on my ear. It's a little backslash here for those who are listening. I'm pointing at my ear and it like angles back. And that's called a heart line. You can ask any doctor or nurse, what is that line? They'll say, oh, that's a heart line. So our faces are biofeedback machines of what's going on both mentally and internally with our body.
I love that. All right. So give me the goods. What are you seeing here?
Sure.
We're staring here,
yes.
For our listeners, we're sitting here face to face, very intimate in the room together. So
the first thing I notice is I always look at eyebrows first, because for introverts, eyebrows lead to eye contact. Like you can get credit for looking people in the eye, even though you're looking at their eyebrows. You have very low eyebrows, so they're very close to your eye. Low eyebrows are people who make decisions very fast. So the longer you talk, the more you lose them. And the reason for that is, well, when people are thinking a lot, they raise like this and go, oh, okay, let me think about it. And they will actually change the height of their eyebrows. Then the next thing is you have what's known as movie star cheeks, and that is their high rounded cheeks. And when you smile, light reflects off of them. The reason they're called that is because actors and actresses used to get hired based on stage lighting reflecting off of their faces. So you've got that part that's there. I'll jump up a little bit.
I'll take all the help I can get. We've got good lighting here.
Yes, and when people go, oh, well, you're just telling people what they want to hear. There's not many bad facial features. Like there's combinations. If I see 3 or 4 things, I'm like, ooh, okay. But that's a personal preference, not a you were born or your muscles did this to your face, you're a bad person. That's more statement analysis, body language, paying attention to what somebody does. But your eyes both angle up slightly if you go from the inside of the eye to the outside. So that's somebody who likes to hear the positive side of things. And so I know if I come in with too much negativity too fast, you will mentally shut down before I even finish talking. So what you learn by learning to understand someone's face is how do I personalize my message for the person instead of pitch my product or want. And that's what changes everything.
Fascinating. Well, I would say check. All of those are fairly spot on. So good work. There's something to this. So let's take it, into kind of like practical, pragmatic. So, a lot of our listeners are in the, online business space and, regularly engaging in, sales conversations, things like that. How can you use this art and this craft of, connecting, maybe learning about, kind of some facial recognition, but also just talk about connecting. I think so often in conversations like this, being in the room with people, so often we're, trying to kind of like talk at people versus actually connecting. Is there
Correct.
something to that? There
is, to a degree. What's funny is for this podcast, what do we do with our phones? We put them away. But when we're having conversations, we don't. People are like, huh? And when we have our phones on us, it buzzes, it does anything, we're distracted. When I first got an Apple Watch, I turned everything off. So I use it just to like track health stuff and that's it. Because I want to be present with the person and I know my own personality, I would be distracted. So like my phone right now, airplane mode, because it's a sign of respect. And I'm the worst in public on being on my phone at times because you have to, the faster you answer social media, the faster things grow. When you're actually focused on the other person, they can feel it. And this goes into more of negotiations and conversations. But when you're having a conversation with someone, if you go through, if you've ever been through any type of relationship therapy, there's something called amigo therapy. And amigo therapy is person A says something, person B says, this is what I heard you say. So if you say, the sign is green right now, person B goes, I heard you say the sign is green. And once you agree, then you reverse roles. But we don't do that when we're talking to people. What you can do is when somebody says a story, you can say, so you, and repeat back some version of what you heard. And that lets you know I was listening, not just waiting to talk. Something as simple as that changes how people feel. If you want to go very, very high level that it's universally applies, all your marketing material needs to have 3 basic focuses when you're talking. It needs to have auditory words, visual words, and kinesthetic action words, hands-on movement. So, and the reason for that is we learn 3 different ways. I'm extremely visual. You're a hands-on person. I'll explain why that is in a minute. And some people are auditory. Well, if I only use visual words the whole time I'm talking my language, but that's not your language. So we talked about, we both studied abroad. Well, if I'd gone to Italy and I just demanded that everybody spoke English, how well would that have gone? Not very well. But by trying to speak their language, as a sign of respect, they tried to speak mine. We try to work with people when we feel that they're trying to create that connection versus you just do the things the way I want them to be done.
Right. Versus just kind of coming in with this agenda and trying to kind of get something out
exactly.
of it. So, yeah.
So in all your marketing material, I used to work for a company that we had to respond to government contracts. Well, I would add in auditory, visual, and kinesthetic words. So what are auditory words? What I hear you saying, or this sounds like a great idea. What are visual words? Oh, I get the picture. I see what you mean.
So literally that literal. I
Yes.
love that. And what we do at Firestarter, we help clients, build out the, marketing messages, positioning themselves as a leader so that we are absolutely, we'll have a follow-up where, you can kind of give me all your sauce on like how to actually put that into action. Cause I think it's just another layer, right? There's all of these layers. And I think that's brilliant, because just to acknowledge that we all do come to things, from different, you mentioned you're an introvert, and I think we have to be mindful that we all are coming from different backgrounds and different experiences and different ways of engaging with any content out there.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's hard because we just don't always remember that people think and learn differently. And so like there's different people. If I want to talk to them, for example, I have one friend that if I want to talk to her, I have to send her a voice text or a video. And I hate voice text. But if I want to communicate with her, that's what I have to do. I'm visual. Send me memes, send me texts. I'll read them all. I have a hard time not being on my phone because it's a visual distraction. But I know if I want to contact Janine Driver, the body language expert, I have to send her a voice text. She will immediately respond. If I send her a regular text, days before she'll respond. So you just learn, if I want to talk to people or I want to get their attention, what's their preferred method of learning?
Meet them where they are. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know if you've gathered this point, but I tend to, some might call it kind of chameleon or just that kind of like, I don't know if it's the empath or whatever, but
yes.
This kind of like just natural instinct to kind of be shaping that dynamic adjust to the environment,
yes.
And I just think that's so sometimes it can be seen as a negative thing as well, but I think it can also be kind of a superpower, the ability to kind of tune in, read the person, and then kind of figure out what moves them and what ultimately is going to kind of like connect with them.
But the great part is what you use. And you said, what moves them? Not how do I get what I want from them? You just understand them and you want to adjust to make them feel comfortable.
Reflect back,
yes, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
And that goes back to what you and I talked about before. We both studied abroad. When you go to brand new places, you have to pay attention to everything because it's a whole new culture, the way things are done. Like I remember when I first went to Italy, and I sat down at a restaurant and I thought at first it was weird. I pay to sit down because that's a waiter, they earn a salary, but you pay up front. And
coperto.
Yes, coperto. And then when my food didn't come out immediately, I'm like, come on, what's the rush? Because in the US, servers only make so much. They make money off tips, so they have to flip the table. But you go over there, it's meant to be an experience, not a rush. And I remember coming back after Italy and just feeling like, why is everybody in such a hurry to do everything? Because I'd gotten so used to everything with time. You have your coffee, you sit and you have conversation, dinner's 3 to 4 hours long. And it was such a different way of life here. And that's the same thing. I think if you do these things where you've moved different states, you've gone international, you have to learn to adjust because it's the only way to survive.
Every type a business owner, individual should spend a little bit of time in Italy. We chatted a little bit before. I have done that a couple of times, lived there for extended periods of time. And, it's such a great way to learn how to slow down and get back to some of the basics in life, which they have down to a science there.
If you look at people, they're usually successful. And this is what I've found in my own just watching. They've worked retail, they've waited tables, right? And they've done some type of customer service job, because you learn how to adapt to the people who are there. Like if you're a server, you didn't cook the food, and there's usually a food runner who delivers the food. Well, if the food comes out, you have to learn to apologize for something that you didn't do, because it affects your livelihood. You have to learn how to deal with irate customers, happy customers, flirty customers, you name it. Like same thing with retail. It's just some people aren't happy, and you have to learn how to deal with everybody. But back to what you said earlier, it's learning to adjust and adapt and realize that people are just people. Right now, we talked about feeling disconnected. We all see everybody's highlight reel on social media and think that's who they are. And it's not. Like there's somebody I know who is very successful, has a huge Instagram account in Dallas, and they go early and take pictures like 4 or 5 o'clock, like they're out all night, and they're at home 7 o'clock in bed, like that's it. So you just have to realize social media isn't real life, but what will be important going forward is real life. Being in the room with people is what will change everything going forward. We went through 2 years, 6 years ago, where we couldn't be around people, and look at what it caused. We crave human connection. If you want to punish kids, what do you put them in? Timeout. If you want to punish the worst criminals, what do? Solitary confinement. So we know how important human connection is, but we're not paying attention to how we're losing it slowly.
On stages, in rooms with a lot of influential leaders and business owners and entrepreneurs. How can our listeners listening to this, begin to put some of these strategies into practice? And,
Sure.
I would love to hear more about, how you help your clients, kind of at a high level.
Sure. The first thing is learn to pay attention to other people. And that's not, like I said earlier, sometimes we're just worried, are we doing the right things? Did I wear the right outfit? We're thinking about us. But what you really have to do is learn to focus on other people. So like AI is really important right now. I think the most important version of AI is you have to be actually interested in others. And when you are, and you pay attention to others, you learn different things, their mannerisms. In body language, it's known as what's their baseline. Once you know somebody's baseline, you know when something is off. So people confuse all the time body language that crossed legs or crossed arms are bad. It's not. It's the speed of which they cross. So if I immediately cross my arms, that's bad. If over time, maybe my back hurts, maybe it's cold in here, there are things. So you learn people's baseline to understand who people are, and then you can see when things change. And that can be clients. Like no two clients are the same. So what you learn is, how do I study these clients? There's a great book, I think it's called The 6-Minute X-Ray by Chase Hughes. And when he goes and meets with people, he has this like whole checklist of what are they? Are they right-handed, left-handed? Which ear do they put towards me? Do they do what's called distal extension, which is when they like you, they open their fingers up, or do they retract their fingers back? He has this whole way to break everybody down. And the reason he's so successful, and the government put like $3 million of training into him, was he's paying attention to the other person on everything. And we were misled in our youth by the golden rule: treat people the way you want to be treated. But the better rule is the platinum rule, and that is treat people the way they want to be treated. Their face tells you that, their body language tells you that, and their words tell you that. If you truly learn to listen to people, they will tell you everything that you need to know. When I hang up the phone, when I'm talking to somebody, I say, okay, I'll see you later. Well, I say see because I'm visual. If somebody's paying attention to that, then they know I'm a visual person. They can adapt. And it's not, don't change who you are, but make sure you're not only speaking your own language. Little things like that matter. We'll teach clients in seminars or in corporate training, go read through your customers' emails, because when they're typing it out or texting it out, they'll tell you how they want to be talked to. And is that how you're talking to them? Or are you just pushing your agenda? And not on purpose, but I'm so visual, I'm going to say things like, hey, let me show you this on my phone. Let me show you this. And I want to show you pictures. Well, if you're auditory, or for like you're hands-on, then that's not the way to do it. So for hands-on learners, it's action words. It's let's do things together. I taught this at a car dealership in California last month. If you're making a video for the customer and you know that they have, and I haven't told you this yet, the area below your nose and above your lip, that's really wide right here. That's how I know that you're a hands-on kinesthetic learner. You've got me nailed. You've got me nailed there as well. I'll interject. I recently hired someone on my team to kind of like help my integrator. That's what to kind of help
get what's here out there and, help me manage the moving parts, which I've always long called my role the manager of moving parts, because I am very hands-on. But, he did his kind of like number one complaint all the time is you're such a doer, because it's hard to hold back the hands, because I love it. I find it very satisfying, and I like to kind of like get in there and, have the quick translation of what's here, out into the world.
Well, and we talk to people who are either auditory, visual, or kinesthetic. Well, if they have large eyes, they tend to be visual. If they have large ears, then they tend to be auditory. And if they have a wide area here, they're hands-on. Now, I can't see your ears, but I can see that this is large and your eyes are kind of small. So I'm going to say you medium-sized ears, like show us one. Oh, see, there you go. So I know when I'm talking to you, it's use action words, use, kinesthetic, like, oh, let's get moving on this project. Let's roll up our sleeves and get to work.
Starter.
Yes, exactly. It's not fire started, it starts her, right?
Yes.
So that's how I would talk to you, is I know I would have to use action words if I want you to hear me. Now, I don't need to change my personality completely. I just need to make sure that I'm speaking your language at times and not just mine.
I love this. Such an awesome conversation. So much we could continue to dig into, but we will save that for part 2. So Brian, where can our listeners find you, learn more about Subtleskills?
So the funny thing is, when I got Subtleskills, I thought, I am a genius. This is the best name ever, until I realized nobody can spell it.
Good point.
Yeah. So the easiest way to find me is Decode the Face, but on everything else, I'm Subtleskills. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, you name it. And the reason the company was called that is because it was all these little skills that helped change my life. I didn't tell anybody I was learning, because there was a shame with having to learn, like, why doesn't this come naturally? But I love the name and I love teaching it to people, because these little skills and these little changes change your life. And we're in a day and age where people are they feel unseen, they feel unheard. And if you can learn to focus on someone, you may change their life, but you could also save their life at the same time.
Well, such important themes, and it's SUBTLE skills, right? All
yes,
right.
Exactly.
I passed 5th grade or whatever that is. All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the Firestarter Podcast. You can check out our show notes at thefirestarterpodcast.com, where we'll have all of Brian's information as well as past episodes. You can find us on YouTube under my name, Willa Kammerer. That is Kammerer. And subscribe to the Firestarter Podcast. And if you enjoyed what you heard today, please check out the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you like to listen to your podcasts. Leaving a review goes such a long way in helping more listeners find us and tune into more conversations like this. So thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you on the next conversation.